Exposed. A single mom's incredible escape into a billionaire's car changes her life forever. Lisa juggled her two jobs like a seasoned acrobat, a balancing act that left her breathless. One moment she was folding shirts in a retail store. The next she was at the diner, serving plates of comfort food to familiar faces that told her stories more than her own reflection did. On days when she felt particularly overwhelmed, clouded by the very real weight of bills and responsibilities, she would remind herself that her children depended on her, and in that dependency, she found unwavering strength, a glimmer of hope that kept her feet on the ground. But that evening, as storm clouds gathered and the scent of rain thickened in the air, hope morphed into frantic energy. Darting out of the diner, car keys clutched tightly in her hand, Lisa could almost feel the rain starting to trickle down her neck. It was one of those days where every second counted, and she cursed herself for running late. She dashed into the parking lot, squinting through the misty haze to glimpse the daycare across the street. And just as she slipped into a sleek black car, she felt all the air rush out of her lungs. This wasn't her old battered minivan. Panic flooded her mind, and her heart raced, pulse hammering against her ribcage like a war drum. "Excuse me!" A voice pulled her from her horror, a deep baritone that left an odd shiver down her spine. She looked up, eyes widening as she caught a glimpse of a sharply dressed man, strikingly handsome but utterly out of place amidst her mundanity. As she scrambled back, flustered, an unexpected sense of intrigue washed over her. Here, seated next to a billionaire on his way to a gala, her struggles felt absurdly magnified. Would he even understand the late-night grind of a single mom, the car repairs, the endless stacks of overdue bills? Yet as they talked, she surprised herself with a raw, unfiltered honesty about her suffocating reality. Her struggles felt painfully alive in the spaces between their words, rising like the storm around them. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. An hour later, as she stepped back out onto the rain-slicked street, Lisa felt an unsettling mix of exhilaration and fear swirl inside her. A part of her, no, a huge part, was drawn to Alex, mesmerized by the glimmer of ambition he represented. And yet she felt the unyielding grip of responsibility tug at her heartstrings. Could she really dream of joining a world filled with charity galas and lavish dinners when her own kids deserved all of her focus? It felt like she was standing at an intersection, each path representing echoes of herself she wasn't sure she knew anymore. A flicker of creativity had risen within her during their conversation as they'd shared opinions on art. Painting had become a misplaced relic in the clutter of her daily life, and the prospect of rediscovering that part of her felt intoxicating. Throat tightened and thoughts racing, Lisa suddenly envisioned herself at the easel again. Could that really be her? As doubts clawed at her, threatening to drown her newfound resolve, the storm above intensified, mirroring the tumult in her heart. But now the stakes were higher. As whispers of injustice crept through her tight-knit community, Lisa felt flames of purpose igniting within her. Struggling between visions of a future bursting with potential and the suffocating loyalty to her children and home, she teetered on the edge. Shadows of doubt loomed, and when her hand trembled at the thought of speaking out, the tension tightened painfully in her chest. With a wariness that threatened to consume her, she readied herself to step into the arena, poised and aching with emotion, faltering only at the sight of Alex's unexpected presence in the crowd, a perfect stranger that now felt strangely entwined in her long-buried dreams. Would she forge ahead, or would she succumb to the heavy pull of her familiar shadows? As the moment to speak closed in, Lisa waited, almost paralyzed in an unspoken conflict, gazing out into faces that knew her, yet feeling more lost than ever. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest like a runaway train as she stood at the edge of the crowd, absorbed by a myriad of familiar faces each carrying their own burdens. Yet none of their struggles mirrored the monumental conflict taking place within her. The stage before her, momentarily illuminated by the flickering lights, felt like an arena where she would either confront her fears or succumb to them indefinitely. She closed her eyes, allowing the envelopment of darkness to mute the cacophony of the outside world. Inhaling deeply, she envisioned the colors of her previous life swirling before her, canvases splattered with dreams, a brush in hand, creating depth amidst the chaos surrounding her. It was a fleeting vision, yet intoxicating enough to tease her into reconsidering. Would it be possible to reclaim that part of herself? Or had the years stripped her of the right to even try? But lurking behind the exhilaration was the shadow of doubt, a dark reminder of the stakes. Every chance she took could distract her from her children, those innocent lives that depended on her, hungry for stability in a world that seemed hell-bent on chaos. What would they think if she failed again? The thought sent a sharp pang through her. She was not just a woman caught in a whirlwind. She was a mother, tethered by love and obligation. As the crowd began to settle, Lisa's gaze inadvertently connected with Alex's, standing close enough to the edge of the stage to almost be considered a participant. He offered her a small, encouraging nod, as if he sensed her inner turmoil. What did he see in her? Was he merely a reflection of the ambitions she had buried deep inside? "Lisa," she thought to herself, "this is your moment." But was it? The self-doubt flooded back like an unwelcome tide, threatening to engulf her once more. Was she truly ready to unveil her vulnerabilities in front of a sea of opinions and judgments? In that charged moment, she felt a shift, a realization blossoming like a stubborn flower pushing through concrete. Each person in that audience had their own stories, their own struggles. Perhaps if she shared hers, they would understand. Perhaps she could transform her story into a bridge, connecting her with those around her. This was bigger than just her. It could be a testament to resilience. Emboldened, she stepped forward, her heels clicking against the wooden stage as she approached the microphone. The soft hum of the audience buzzed around her, a buzzing hive she could either engage with or retreat from. Lisa raised her hand, silencing her heart, and drew in another deep breath, ready to let them know she was here, ready to face her fears, her truth. But as she lifted her chin and prepared to speak, her vision darkened momentarily, the weight of expectations heavy against her chest. She felt the familiar pull of her two lives battling within her, the loyal mother wanting to shield her children from every disappointment and the ambitious woman thirsting for more. She hesitated, a chill creeping along her spine, as she stared into the crowd's expectant eyes that felt like an avalanche waiting to spill. What if she faltered? What if everything she thought she could bring to light only darkened the landscape of her motherhood? As the thoughts threatened to spiral, it was Alex's gaze that anchored her. There was something in it that urged her toward action, nudging her toward the life she yearned for, the creativity she wished to rekindle. In this moment, the decision to speak hung before her, an unfulfilled promise tempting her lips. What would she choose? And as the weight of uncertainty tumbled over her like a cascade, she realized the stage wasn't just filled with onlookers. It was ripe with possibilities. Would she take the plunge, or would she retreat back into the shadows from which she had emerged? As she grasped the microphone, ready to carve out her place amongst the story of her life and the lives of others, the moment hinged precariously on her next word. Just then, the lights flickered overhead, igniting a firestorm of possibility within her. Would she dare to expose the beautiful wreckage that was her life? The answer awaited, lingering just out of reach. The microphone felt surprisingly cold against Lisa's palm, a stark contrast to the warmth flooding her cheeks. The moment was electric, charging her veins with an urgent desire to be seen and heard. Perhaps it was the flicker of the stage lights, or the collective energy of the audience. It all stirred her from the depths of indecision. She was here, standing before them, clinging to the fragile thread of courage that had finally resurfaced. What if I did speak? The thought darted through her mind, igniting a flicker of rebellion against the relentless tide of self-doubt. Each heartbeat synchronized with her resolve, pushing her forward. Lisa inhaled deeply, scenting the familiar, comforting aroma of wood and paint that evoked childhood memories of art studios. Could she channel that energy, that creativity, into the words that were meant to spill from her? As she opened her mouth, nothing emerged at first. The silence stretched like an open canvas, waiting for her brush, for the chaotic swirls of uncertainty that threatened to drown her. Focused on the faces staring back at her, she felt the weight of their expectations. Yet beneath that weight grew something tender, an understanding that her vulnerability might resonate with them, that her struggles could mirror theirs. "Good evening," she finally said, her voice steadied by an unexpected calm. A ripple of acknowledgement swept through the room, a reminder she wasn't alone. She locked eyes with Alex once more, grounding herself in his encouraging smile. "I'm Lisa, a single mother of two. Today, I choose to share my journey." In the next breath, she plunged into her tale, sharing fragments of her life that were once too painful to articulate. She spoke of late nights filled with dried paint stains on her hands and whispered dreams of creativity lost, but not forgotten. Each revelation peeled away her layers of fear, replacing them with raw honesty. She shared the moments of panic, doubt, and guilt that were etched in her heart. The audience leaned in, and Lisa felt the distance between their struggles dissolve. In an implicit exchange of energies, they were all partaking in a collective healing, a poignant reminder that each scar told a story deserving of attention and empathy. Yet, even as the words flowed, the shadows of her life loomed. Her children's welfare, the intense fear of failing them again. But what if I can't do both? What if this opens a door to failure? The question clawed at her mind, threatening to inject doubt into her newfound courage. But that was the crux of it. She understood now that failure was a possibility always, but so was success. What if this very moment sparked embers of inspiration, not just for herself, but for them all? Lisa could redefine her narrative, turning her vulnerability into an arsenal of strength. With each word, she painted a picture not just of her past, but of possibilities. A life where she embraced both her ambitions and her responsibilities, where fulfillment and motherhood coexisted harmoniously. As she concluded her story, a palpable silence enveloped the room. Lisa searched the audience, not for approval, but connection. Their expressions revealed understanding, admiration, and perhaps a glimmer of recognition of their own battles. The internal shift felt monumental. She had stepped outside the shadow, reclaiming a narrative that had been silenced for too long. Yet, within that moment of triumph, flickered another challenge. The applause echoed in her ears, but lurking behind that sound was a profound realization. Sharing her truth had merely been a catalyst. What next? What was on the horizon after unveiling her scars to the world? As Lisa stepped away from the microphone, the uncertainty stung, reminding her of the weight that had shifted but not disappeared entirely. There was work to be done, a journey to be embraced beyond this moment. How would she navigate the risks ahead? The audience remained, a mixture of support and expectation clinging in the air, waiting for the next chapter of her story to unfold. Would she dare to step further into this new life, to explore the depths of her aspirations despite the unknown still to come? As she looked out into the sea of expectant faces, the stakes felt higher than ever. What awaited her on this path of transformation? The bright lights began to dim, but Lisa's heart still raced. She slowly stepped off the stage, the echoes of her truth lingering in the air like notes from a melody just played. As she walked through the back of the room, she glanced at Alex, who beamed at her, his pride almost palpable. But beyond that warmth, uncertainty gripped her. What would she do now? This wasn't the conclusion, it was merely the prologue to something larger. In the quiet of her thoughts, she grappled with the aftermath of her revelation. There was exhilaration, yes, but it was soaked in anxiety. She had shed her fears like discarded skin, but the rawness of her unveiling exposed more than simple vulnerability. She was now tasked with the challenge of moving forward. Was it enough? The question gnawed at her relentless mind. She had opened a window into her life, but was that enough to translate into action? How would she utilize this newfound courage beyond sharing her story? The apprehension kept her from settling into a sense of victory. The crowd dispersed, their faces blurry in her rear view as she made her way outside into the crisp evening air. The cool breeze contrasted sharply with the warmth of her revelation, igniting her senses. Lisa leaned against the wall of the venue, her mind racing through the possibilities that beckoned just beyond her grasp. Ideas swirled like the autumn leaves tumbling around her, but she needed clarity. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Alex. "You were incredible tonight. Let's grab coffee and discuss the next steps." The words sparked a flicker of excitement within her. This wasn't just an offer for coffee, it was an invitation to steer her journey toward tangible goals. Coffee with Alex conjured visions of collaborative projects, possibilities of mentoring, or even engaging with others who experienced similar struggles. Each thought twisted with excitement and trepidation. What if she could impact the lives of others just as her story had inspired her? What if she became a catalyst for change? Lisa hesitated, her instincts urging caution. "You don't belong in those circles," a familiar voice echoed in her mind. That voice whispered the earlier narrative she had almost eradicated, the one that told her she was incapable because her past was littered with failures. But hadn't she just conquered her moment of truth? Why couldn't she step into this opportunity? As the dawn of possibility broke across her consciousness, images of her children's faces floated into view, reminding her of the weighty responsibilities she bore. They wouldn't simply inspire her actions, they would be the very reason she flourished. Her fears could no longer dictate her decisions. This was her chance to provide them with a life imbued with passion and resilience. The nagging uncertainty remained, however. Would she be enough to guide herself and those dependent on her? Could she juggle motherhood while stepping outside her comfort zone? This newfound resolution was charged with urgency, pressing her to act without dismissal. Lisa pushed herself off the wall, her spine straightening as she took a steadying breath. Yes, she was going to meet Alex. Yes, she would enter this new chapter of her life armed with the courage she had just discovered. But would that be enough? As she walked toward her car, a sense of determination surged in her veins. She had no clear path, but the desire to shape her narrative took precedence over the fear of failure. Yet, an uneasy thought flickered at the edges of her resolve. What pitfalls awaited her in this uncharted territory? What if she stumbled forward into a world where her courage was tested yet again? The journey was only beginning, and with each step she could feel the stakes rising. Would she succeed in not only redefining herself, but also in ensuring her children saw her as more than a single mother, but as a thriving, dynamic individual? The gravity of her choices rested heavily upon her shoulders, but the pull of potential beckoned her to take the leap. Alex waited, and with him, the promise of a new beginning. The weight of the unknown felt heavy, and yet, the thrill of launching toward it ignited her imagination. How could she navigate this path if every turn brought new challenges? The questions loomed large, echoing against the excitement of what lay ahead. As Lisa approached the cafe, the aroma of rich coffee filled the air, its warmth curling around her like a comforting embrace. It was a momentary distraction from the tide of thoughts swirling in her mind. She pushed the door open, the bell chiming softly above, a sound that felt both inviting and foreboding. Alex sat at a table near the window, a notebook open before him, his pen poised. His eyes lit up the instant he spotted her, the warmth of his gaze easing some of her apprehension. She waved, wiping her sweaty palms on her jeans, reminding herself to breathe. "Hey you!" Alex called as she settled across from him. "You took my breath away last night. You really opened up." His enthusiasm was palpable, and she felt a fleeting sense of validation at his words. "Thanks, Lisa began, choking back the flood of uncertainty that threatened to spill over. "I'm still processing everything." "Processing is good. Think of it as planting seeds," he replied, leaning in. "We can't see them grow right away, but with time, the roots will spread, and eventually, you'll see what blooms. Have you thought about how you want to channel that energy?" Lisa nodded and took a sip of her coffee, its bitterness jolting her fully into the moment. "I want to make a difference. Not just for me, but for my kids. I want them to see me as strong, as capable." She could feel her stomach clench with the weight of those words, the importance of the statement invigorating yet terrifying at the same time. "Then let's outline some pathways." Alex pulled out his notebook, both eyes narrowed in focus. "What are some areas where you feel you could create an impact?" As she considered his question, Lisa felt a spark igniting within her, a realization that perhaps her experience and voice held the power to inspire, and maybe educate. "I've been thinking about women's empowerment programs, maybe for single mothers," she disclosed tentatively. "Sharing stories, creating support networks." Alex nodded appreciatively. "That's where real transformation can happen. Women sharing their truths, tackling stigma, and empowering one another." He flipped through his notes. "Have you ever considered public speaking workshops? We can help create meaningful experiences." "I don't know, Alex." Doubt pricked at her resolve. "What if I can't deliver? What if I fail?" He met her gaze, his expression thoughtful. "What if you succeed? Change comes with uncertainty, Lisa. Embrace it. You've already demonstrated courage by sharing your story." His faith in her sent a warmth flooding through her, yet the insecurity lingered. This was uncharted territory, where fear churned within her like restless waves. How could she stand before others and claim authority on a topic she was only just grappling with herself? With every thought she voiced, they materialized into a blueprint, ideas forming into tangible plans. Yet, each phrase was tainted with reminders of past failures, the echoes of her insecurities haunting her. They crowded her mind as if waiting for the right moment to drown her newfound sense of hope. Yet there was a flicker of resolve ignited by Alex's confidence, a promise of potential. Could she really harness her story and spin it into a narrative that not only uplifted her but others as well? The thought felt both thrilling and daunting. "We should set a timeline." Alex scribbled down notes. "Tackle one step at a time. Maybe even start with a small group. You could lead discussions, facilitate small workshops on resilience and empowerment for mothers who feel as lost as you once did. Lisa felt the exhilaration clash with fear. The thought of leading others, guiding them toward self-discovery when she was still on her own journey, sent icy fingers of self-doubt creeping into her chest. What if I'm not enough? Start where you are, Alex asserted, firm yet gentle. That's brave. You don't have to be perfect. Authenticity is key. His conviction resonated within her, a small flame flickering against the dark doubts. Could she truly take this leap? As she left the cafe, the sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, a metaphor for the change she felt brewing inside her. What if stepping into this unknown was the catalyst for the evolution she sought, both for herself and for her children? But the pull of her insecurities still loomed, taunting her with echoes of defeat. She was on the brink of something transformative, yet fear tangled with anticipation like a dual-edged sword. Would she find the strength to embrace this journey, to allow herself the chance of possibility? Each step felt increasingly volatile, and within that tension lay a crucial question. Could she withstand the impending trials to become the woman she aspired to be? And as she walked, one thought remained tethered in her mind. If she chose to move forward, what challenges awaited in this intricate dance of courage and vulnerability? The morning sun streamed through her window, waking Lisa with a soft, warm glow that felt incongruous with her knotted stomach. Today was the day she would begin her journey into the uncharted territories of her ambitions. The adrenaline pulsed through her veins as she shook off the remnants of sleep, reminding herself of all the reasons why she was undertaking this leap. She grabbed her notebook, the same one Alex had used yesterday at the cafe, and began jotting down her thoughts, goals, fears, steps. Each word felt like an incantation, a step toward a reality she wanted to forge. The pages filled with ideas on workshops, community engagement ideas, and stories that she could share, her story and those of others like her. She paused, the pen hovering above the paper. What if they doubted her? What if they saw her struggles and found her inadequate? With a shaky breath, she pushed the doubts aside. This was about more than just her. This was about reshaping narratives and creating space for vulnerability. How could she expect her potential participants to trust and be inspired if she herself was wavering in her courage? She wrote, "Be authentic. Speak from experience." The morning progressed, and each passing hour felt like an accumulation of momentum. She dressed meticulously, selecting an outfit that struck a balance between professionalism and warmth, an invitation to connect rather than a barrier of pretense. As she stared into the mirror, she practiced her introduction. Each attempt at articulation felt raw yet powerful, an embodiment of her desires and fears. When it was finally time to leave, she clutched her notebook tightly against her chest, as if it contained not just words, but the essence of the transformation she was seeking. The drive to the community center was a surreal blur of anticipation and anxiety. Every red light felt like an opportunity to back out, yet with every turn of the steering wheel, she steeled herself further. Arriving at the center, the cacophony of voices and chatter overwhelmed her. Women of all ages filled the room, their laughter and conversation weaving an atmosphere pulsing with energy. It was not only educational, it was a sanctuary for shared experiences. Still, the doubt seeped in once more. Did she belong here? Would her story resonate with them, or would they see her as just another voice drowning in noise? As the session began, she found herself standing in front of these women, their eyes fixed on her, filled with expectation. The spotlight felt unforgiving, the weight of their collective stories pressing down on her shoulders. Yet she recalled Alex's words, urging her to embrace uncertainty. It was time to be vulnerable, to share her truth. "Hi," she started, her voice trembling slightly as she fought to steady it. "I'm Lisa, and I've been where many of you are. I know what it's like to feel lost, to feel like you're struggling just to stay afloat." She began to weave her narrative, allowing her experiences to spill forth, intertwining her struggles with the essential message of hope and resilience. As the words flowed, she could see their faces shift, understanding, empathy, connection. The energy in the room changed, the atmosphere thickened with a palpable sense of shared struggle. In that moment, her vulnerability transformed into strength, and her apprehensions began to dissolve like mist in the morning sun. By the end of the session, a sense of clarity washed over her. Lisa had opened a door, not just for herself, but for so many others. They approached her with shared stories and expressions of gratitude, and in return, she received not just validation, but empowerment. Could her journey of transformation act as a catalyst for theirs? Walking to her car afterward, the weight she'd carried for so long began to lift. But in the back of her mind, a new question stirred. How far could she take this newfound courage? Lisa had just begun to scratch the surface of her potential, and with it came the realization that this was merely the beginning. The moment she reached her car, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from a woman she'd connected with during the session, asking to collaborate on a community project. The possibilities unfurling before her were both exhilarating and daunting. As she stared at her screen, a sense of urgency gripped her. What decisions would she make next, and could she handle the challenges of this path? With excitement sparking in her chest, she realized the journey ahead would test her in ways she had yet to imagine. The following morning dawned with a different light, one that illuminated not just the day ahead, but also the choices Lisa had to confront. Her phone had buzzed with possibilities, yet as she sat with her coffee, the fear of the unknown enveloped her again. Could she really take on the responsibility of a collaboration? What if her voice was drowned out? Determined to push these thoughts away, she flipped her notebook open. Page after page detailed her goals, and she realized that her ambitions were not just written down, they were tangible fire within her. She began to jot down a response to the message. Collaboration felt daunting, but it also shimmered with potential. Perhaps more than a partnership, it was her opportunity to cement her role as a leader. After sending her response, a flicker of apprehension flickered within her. Reflecting on her recent experience, she reminded herself that vulnerability had been her strength. But what if this new venture exposed her insecurities all over again? There was clarity in that moment. She needed to face her fear of inadequacy head-on. Not long after, Lisa received a reply. A positive and enthusiastic acknowledgement of her willingness to collaborate. As excitement coursed through her, the urgency of the invitation fueled her ambition. The day turned to night, and she sat across from her new partner, Judith, a woman with fire in her eyes and ambition that sparked like flint. Their discussion unfolded, varied in topics but centered on a shared vision. Each idea floated into the air, igniting a passion in Lisa that had lain dormant, waiting for the right moment to break free. "Let's challenge ourselves, Lisa," Judith said, her voice driving home the importance of the risk they were about to undertake. "We have a chance to create something powerful. Are you willing to push beyond the edges of your comfort zone?" Lisa's heart raced. It felt as though Judith had reached into her soul, articulating the very core of her conflict. Could she truly aspire to heights she had only seen from a distance? Or would she falter under the weight of her dreams? "Yes," Lisa declared, surprising herself with the confidence she hadn't known was there. "I want this. I need this." They brainstormed, laughing and weaving ambitions with ideas. A program not only centered upon sharing stories, but cultivating real personal growth. Together, they mapped out a path, and Lisa felt the thrill of vision taking shape under her fingertips. But with it came the pressure. This was no longer just her story. In the days that followed, Lisa found her footing, diving headfirst into the project with the fervor she hadn't realized she possessed. But each small success carried an undercurrent of doubt. Was she capable of this? Did she deserve to create something impactful? As she poured her thoughts into actionable items, her heart ached with the weight of potential failure. Late one evening, lost in thought while reviewing their proposal, she paused at a reflection. The fear of inadequacy still flared in the corners of her mind. But now it felt different. Instead of a paralyzing force, it served as a deeper motivation. She questioned herself, determined to uncover hidden facets of her self-worth. The next meeting approached, one that bore the significance of accountability. Looking at the mirror, she practiced her opening lines, yet every attempt felt rehearsed, distant from the authenticity she hoped to convey. This was a moment of vulnerability, and it was essential to embrace it. As the day unfolded, Lisa felt the stakes rising. What if their proposal didn't resonate? What if she revealed too much? The fear was palpable, yet with each passing second, she reminded herself that every moment she had spent uncovering her narrative had transformed her, and she could either let fear dictate her journey or embrace it as part of her unfolding story. Finally, standing at the threshold of their venue, she drew in a shaky breath, the weight of anticipation hanging heavily in the air. Was she truly prepared for this public unveiling of her ideas? The rhythmic pulse of her heartbeat mirrored the uncertainty she felt, and it dawned on her that being scared was perhaps the clearest sign that she was growing. Today she would test her mettle, and in doing so, the world might reveal something profound about her story, her strength, her potential. Just as she took her first step inside, a startling realization washed over her. Would her ambitions pull her forward or shatter her illusions? The answer awaited her within, ready to unfold in unpredictable ways. The room buzzed with a low hum of chatter, an electric anticipation lingering as Lisa stepped inside. She scanned the space, taking in the faces of professionals, mentors, and peers who had once seemed worlds away from her own reality. Yet here she stood, tying her aspirations to a shared mission, poised to reveal a collaboration that could redefine her career. As she approached the front, her heart raced, a cacophony of self-doubt battling against a burgeoning confidence. Would they see past her hesitation? Would her ideas resonate? The stage felt like an extension of her vulnerability, and she so desperately wanted to rise above the fear that clenched at her throat. "Remember why you're here," she whispered to herself. This project was not just another checkbox. It was a stepping stone, marking her commitment to embracing her voice. With each step, she felt Judith's encouraging presence behind her, a reminder of the partnership they forged, one based on trust and ambition. Lisa took a deep breath, her palms slightly trembling as she adjusted her notes. In that moment, she embraced clarity. Each word she spoke was not merely an idea, but a piece of her vision. Her voice, both steady and shaky, began to articulate their concept, a blend of storytelling and personal growth. The room shifted with her passion, the undercurrent of fear transforming into a wave of excitement. Yet, amid the growing support, shadows of doubt lurked. She noticed a few skeptical faces, their expressions unreadable, and for a heartbeat, she hesitated. The anticipation of rejection sent chills through her. What if they think I'm just another wannabe? The thought clawed at her, desperately trying to pull her back into the shadows. But she remembered Judith's challenge. Pushing beyond comfort didn't only mean embracing successes, it meant facing scrutiny head-on too. Lisa focused on the audience, making eye contact, connecting with them. Gradually she released the grip of inadequacy, each sentence aimed not just at selling an idea but at sharing her journey. "Here's the thing," Lisa articulated, the conviction in her voice heightening with every word. "We all have stories. They empower. They connect. This program is more than a collection of tales. It's a pathway for personal growth." As she spoke, she saw nods of understanding ripple across the room. That acknowledgement fueled her, shifting her perception of their skepticism. It was a mirror reflecting not just her ideas, but their value, resonating with people in ways she could never have anticipated. When she concluded, the applause felt surreal. It was warm, genuine, a recognition of her courage rather than a judgment of her capability. Yet, just as the exhilaration washed over her, a pang of anxiety struck back. What would the feedback be? Would they validate her vision or dismantle it? Judith stepped forward, her expression a mixture of pride and relief. "Incredible presentation, Lisa. You have a way with articulation that brings your vision alive. I always believed in what we could create together." Surrounded by a newfound sense of belonging, Lisa's heart swelled. This was her moment of self-discovery, but it sparked a deeper question within. Who would she become beyond this threshold of success? How would she evolve as both an individual and a professional, navigating the path that lay ahead? That night, as she lay awake, drowning in the possibilities, the urgency of her own journey settled into her bones. The fear was still there, but it had morphed into something she could use. If fear was an emotion that pushed her to grow, perhaps she could harness it as a catalyst rather than a constraint. Could she muster the courage to confront tougher challenges lurking around the corner, or even face potential setbacks? The truth felt imminent, and as Lisa drifted into sleep, she realized tomorrow would demand her to confront new hurdles, seeking to understand not only how to succeed, but how to embrace the complexities of her evolving self. As she closed her eyes, the question lingered in the silence. Would she find the clarity to navigate her ambitions, or would doubt continue to cast its shadow on her dreams? As dawn broke, Lisa awoke with a resolve that felt different, clearer. Today was not just any day, it was a turning point. The echoes of last night's applause still reverberated in her mind, but alongside them thrummed a new rhythm, determination. She rolled out of bed, the weight of yesterday's uncertainties no longer invoking fear, but rather an eager anticipation for the challenges ahead. After a quick breakfast, she opened her laptop, staring at the blinking cursor that sat mockingly on the blank screen. It was time to take action. Lisa had spent too long hesitating, waiting for validation from others. Instead of seeking approval, she decided to create her own benchmarks. She began drafting a detailed plan, mapping out not just her project, but her vision for future collaborations and personal milestones. Each bullet point she wrote became a commitment, a promise to herself. Yet, as the day wore on, the specter of doubt reared its head in small but insidious ways. During a scheduled feedback session with Judith, Lisa felt the sting of vulnerability gnawing at her resolve. Judith's praise had been reassuring, but now Lisa was tasked with incorporating critique from colleagues who might not share her vision. What if they don't get it? Haunted her thoughts, a whisper that tempted her to retreat into her previous insecurities. Lisa, remember to anticipate questions, Judith advised, while scrolling through the presentation notes. You're not here to please everyone, but to present your truth. Those words settled like stones in Lisa's heart. The truth, her truth, was all she had to offer. The realization began to steer her mindset. It wasn't about garnering applause but forging connections and standing firm in the conviction of her ideas. Each piece of feedback wasn't a dismissal, it was an opportunity to refine her scope. As the session progressed, she noticed a shift within herself. She began to articulate her thoughts with clarity and conviction, engaging her colleagues in dialogue rather than bracing for critiques. This approach fostered a mutual respect that transformed the initial air of skepticism into collaborative energy. Her confidence grew with every interaction, turning her apprehensions into invigorating discussions. In the weeks that followed, Lisa took on ambitious projects that stretched her professional muscles. She dove into networking opportunities and skill-building workshops, refusing to shy away from technical subjects that once intimidated her. She even enrolled in a course on public speaking. Each step filled her with a sense of ownership over her development, allowing her to reshape her narrative from passive receiver to active architect of her future. However, personal life began to mirror the strain of her professional ambitions. Juggling her workload with single motherhood was challenging. There were nights when the exhaustion threatened to drown her spirit, and moments when her daughter Lily's need for attention felt like a call to retreat. But rather than pulling back, Lisa leaned in. She told her daughter about her projects, inviting Lily into her world of ideas. Seeing her child's curiosity sparked something new in Lisa, a refusal to let her reality define her limits. With newfound perspectives, Lisa began mentoring others in her network who faced similar struggles. Each time she guided someone through their doubts, she solidified her own understanding of resilience. The more she gave, the more confident she became in her abilities. Yet the path wasn't without pitfalls. One day, an unexpected email arrived that turned her world upside down. A proposal that offered collaboration with a potential partner who harbored a reputation for cutthroat business practices. The fear of losing everything she'd built loomed large, challenging the integrity she had come to cherish. Now Lisa stood at a crossroads. Accepting this partnership could catapult her forward, but at what cost? Caught between ambition and principles, she faced a dilemma. Should she pursue a potentially lucrative path or stay true to her values? Each option bore its own weight of consequence, and the decision felt heavy, laden with the complexities of who she was becoming. The moment of truth had arrived, forcing her to confront not just her dreams, but the very essence of her character. Could she navigate this uncharted territory without compromising herself? The choice lingered just out of reach, waiting for her to seize it as the world unfolded in unpredictable ways. What would she decide? Standing alongside her cluttered desk, Lisa felt torn between the excitement of possible success and the values she had cultivated through her transformational journey. In her heart, she understood the importance of staying true to herself, but the allure of quick advancement whispered temptations that made her pulse race. It was a familiar struggle that seemed to echo the chaos of her past, but she was not the same woman who would let fear dictate her choices. As she read over the proposal for the collaboration, she felt a deep sense of anger rising within her, not at the prospective partner, but at herself. She had poured her soul into creating a space of empowerment for herself and others. How could she now consider aligning with a company that thrived on cutthroat tactics? The very idea felt like an affront to the values she had begun to embody. Reflecting on her journey, she recalled the countless women who had approached her after her speaking engagement, sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. They had inspired her to find her own voice, and now she realized it was time to lead by example. What message would I be sending if I walked down this path? She pondered. Her daughter's face crossed her mind. Lisa imagined Lily looking up at her, eyes gleaming with admiration and trust. I want to show her what resilience looks like, not just through my successes, but by standing firm on my principles. With a deep breath, Lisa felt her resolve swell within her. Decisions based on integrity were always significant, regardless of the financial implications. Putting pen to paper, she drafted a response. "Thank you for the opportunity, but I must respectfully decline. My values do not align with your operational practices." Even as she typed the words, she felt a wave of anxiety crash over her. What if this rejection meant a return to financial uncertainty? Could she handle the dependency on her work when the stakes were so high? But even amidst her doubts, there was a flicker of liberation. Each keystroke reaffirmed her commitment to authenticity. After sending the email, Lisa stepped back and took a moment to breathe. The tension in her chest began to ease, replaced with clarity. The right trajectory wouldn't come without its share of discomfort, but she was prepared to face whatever came next with newfound power. To reinforce her confidence, she called Judith to discuss her decision. Their ensuing conversation acted as a balm for her apprehension, fortifying Lisa's belief in the necessity of aligning her work with her core values. Judith's voice rang with encouragement, urging her to continue the pursuit of collaborations rooted in authenticity. With renewed determination, Lisa arranged a public speaking workshop at a local community center, aimed at helping women harness their own stories of resilience. The proposal was met with enthusiasm, and soon she found herself leading discussions that were as enlightening for her as they were for the participants. Each interaction transformed her apprehensions into tools for empowerment, confirming her place as a credible leader within her community. Following the workshop, the participants showed genuine interest in staying connected, building a network dedicated to shared growth. Lisa became a catalyst for more than self-expression. She nurtured connections among women who could uplift one another. The warmth that enveloped each gathering served as a reminder of the roots she had planted when she first chose to embrace her story. Days turned into weeks as her network expanded organically, evolving into a support system for mothers in need. In aligning her newly found ambitions with her values, Lisa unlocked a deeper source of fulfillment. Her identity as a mentor solidified her aspirations, reinforcing the understanding that success was not solely defined by financial gain, but by the impact she could impart on those around her. It was also through this journey that she began to sculpt a professional narrative for herself. Connecting with local businesses and other organizations, Lisa carved out a speaking presence for herself that instigated further opportunities. She became a sought-after voice at various engaging gatherings. Each speaking opportunity felt like another brushstroke on the canvas of her life, adding to the vivid tapestry of her journey. As success began to bloom, the balance of motherhood and ambition naturally evolved. In moments when her work demanded more of her time, Lisa adapted, carving out quality moments with Lily, making her daughter part of the process. Together they explored the importance of resilience, community, and the value of authenticity, principles that she hoped would become foundational to Lily's understanding of the world. One afternoon, as the sun dipped down below the horizon, Lisa sat across from Lily at the kitchen table, working on an art project together. She watched her daughter paint, blissfully lost in creativity, and felt the stirring of pride. This was the life she had fought for, one filled with passion, authenticity, and unwavering connection to what mattered most: her children. In that moment, pulled between acceptance and action, Lisa reveled in the knowledge that she had forged a new identity, embracing both the mother and the empowered woman she had become. With each decision that prioritized integrity, her confidence solidified further. It was no longer the fear of failing that dominated her thoughts, but the excitement of the possibilities that awaited. As she tucked Lily in that night, the quiet exchange solidified a profound realization within Lisa. She was capable of igniting change, not only within herself, but within the lives of those around her. This journey was not just about conquering career ambitions. It was about illustrating to her children that they, too, could stand firm in their values and navigate the world with purpose. The accomplishments would continue to grow, but more importantly, she had felt the essence of transformation ripple through her being, a sense of satisfaction that no fleeting success could ever replicate. Lisa was ready for the next chapter, unfazed and emboldened by the limitless potential that lay ahead. And as she settled into bed, the tranquil harmony of the night surrounding her, her heart filled with hope. The flickering presence of dawn brought a sense of urgency, igniting the thrill of embracing each moment. She had achieved personal growth, and her determination would eternally guide her onward. Now was the moment for everyone watching to take action. If you're inspired by stories of personal transformation and overcoming the odds, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait, even one more second, to hit that button and join our community. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this channel in sharing incredible tales of resilience. I want to hear your thoughts. Comment your reactions and theories about Lisa's journey. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You're part of something special. Let's empower each other and spread these incredible stories far and wide.